This is WWE superstar Drew McIntyre, and you're listening to the WWE Podcast.
The champ is
the one that everybody wants, me.
It's going to WrestleMania. Claymore!
Austin 316 says I just whipped your ass. This is my iron. You're going to acknowledge me.
What is going on, everybody, and welcome to another main event review. Thank you very much for tuning into this week's main event review. Post Money in the Bank, so back to normal proceedings with the two main event matches, as well as snippets from Raw and a little bit from SmackDown as well. A lot to get through in this main event. Lots of promos here, so lots to break down the promos. Not going to basically review the promos and exactly what's been said word for word. I'm sure that everyone's sort of got to that by now, but sort of give my opinion and kind of sparkle and address what happened in each of the promos on Raw too. But before we begin, I do like to mention that I do have my own podcast. It is called The Huddle Within. It's a sports podcast going on beyond the deeper connections and how sports impacts our lives on a personal level. So be sure to check that out. I'll try to leave a description. I'll link to the description here on this episode. But if you are a regular listener to the main event review, it'd be great if you could have a look at what I'm also doing on the side as well. But without further ado, let's get straight into it. We've got B-Fab taking on Candice LeRae. Pretty decent match, back and forth sort of match as well. Kind of the same story here, bit of balance and whatnot. But we did see Candice LeRae get the victory here with a roll-up, grabbing the tights. And as for, I guess, what will happen with her, she gets her second victory in a row on main event, taking on Michin last week and now taking her partner B-Fab on, getting the victory here. That will give her much needed momentum going into a potential feud with the Wyatt Six now that she's sort of the manager for DIY. I like the new angle for Candice LeRae. I feel like that's a good, perfect angle for her, especially given that she has a real-time relationship with Johnny Gargano. As for B-Fab, again, not as mentioned before, not really a fan of her being a singles star. I think it's better that she teams up with Michin here. Probably go after the tag team titles, but there's not much clarity when it comes to when those tag team titles are being defended. And in all seriousness, do we really think that these two would beat Liv and Raquel? Probably not. But there's probably the only thing that could make them a bit more meaningful is to go for those titles or embrace them as a tag team. If not for going for the titles, I would recommend, or I'd suggest, or I'd think that'd be best if they actually became a heel tag team as well. Given that Michin is really a fan of the kendo stick and B-Fab is a massive presence, I feel like if they turn the angle and just change to be sort of big villains, I think that would do them a really good service. You could see what it did for Naomi's character. She's turned the leaf on her old persona and has really embraced her heel role and is doing a fantastic job in that. So definitely would love to see those two potentially explore being a heel tag team. But again, there'll be no real competitor for Liv and Raquel. And I really want those tag team titles or women's tag team titles to get defended. I find that they're not really doing anything with the titles and it's quite frustrating. And also the fact that there's no clarity as to where the tag team titles lie. It just makes it a bit more cluttered and clustered. So there's no point having titles if you're not going to be able to defend them, unless they're going to just push the women's tag team division a little higher. Then I don't really see a point in getting them out. And I feel like that's a struggle at the moment, especially on the SmackDown side. Like the Intercontinental side is pretty good, which we'll get to. But the SmackDown women's side, especially with the US title, is kind of vague at the moment. But I do expect that Julia and Selena Vega will be a good feud and a good promo coming up shortly. And hopefully, if Julia gets the victory there, it will pave the way for potentially a decent run. And I expect that to be a long run as well, with a lot of opponents and stuff. So we'll have to wait and see on that. But if there's no room for women's tag teams, then there's really no point having the belts. So I think they just need to get defended there. We then move on to Raw. With John Cena coming into the ring, and obviously not going to quote exactly what's been said, but essentially he came out and taunted the fans, calling them spineless keyboard warriors and ignorant armchair activists, which I found pretty funny. He also mentioned that the Truth's gimmick will basically spit out from a year and no one will care about it. And then went to mention all about his farewell dates, basically counting down to 19 dates, which is almost at his halfway point, which is quite quickest. I feel like those dates have gone so quick. So it is really crazy to know that we're almost halfway into John Cena's retirement tour. And as much as I love the idea of John Cena going heel and being able to see how it went, I don't really think it's been very underwhelming, to say the least. And I think the reason why it's been so underwhelming is because we know that he's going to retire at the end of the year. And we also sort of know that he's pulling on this gimmick. It doesn't come natural to him. Like, he's doing his best, and I think he's doing really well on the mic to really convince them, people, that he is a heel. But it just, especially when it's just his last year, we're all going to know that he's just going to turn the leaf and come back to being the face John Cena we know and love. But it's great for us to sort of get a sample on how this could have potentially looked like back in the past. But I still think that they should have pulled the trigger on this. They really should have done this a long time ago when this was something that could have been possible. But again, great for us to sort of know what this could have been in an alternative universe 10 years ago. But anyway, he mentions that he's halfway done and tells the fans not to waste time sending the class clown, obviously referring to Truth. And he said he wanted them to use their voice and send him good competition. And from when I did hear this, it basically invited CM Punk to come into the ring personally. So it was no surprise when CM Punk did make his entrance, in fact. And before I go on to what CM Punk had to say and everything, I don't know what I think about this, because I feel like we've left CM Punk and Seth Rollins' feud unresolved. The last time they sort of had their feud was in the main event match and still having brawls on Raw and stuff. So I don't really understand how they're doing this without mentioning Seth Rollins, unless Seth Rollins is going to be involved in cashing in for this belt. But they still haven't resolved that. I guess they kind of realized, as John Cena's got not much dates left, they need to push this feud between CM Punk and John Cena. It's something that we've obviously all been waiting for. But again, finally that's been made. CM Punk calls him out, basically says that he's going to be here to essentially be the voice of the voiceless and defend the establishment, not for TKO, not for the millionaires, but for all the fans. So CM Punk is basically taking that responsibility on himself. He calls out the final boss as well, which was great. And then he also mentions that it started with Rollins stomping on Punk and Cena putting him in the STF. He said that when he heard Cena saying he's sorry, he knew that he was not doing it right, and he knew that that was wrong. So basically, when the fans chanted "You sold out" from that, he wanted Cena, Punk wanted Cena to basically apologize to all the people for the man he's become. And he said that the title has corrupted Cena because it happened to him back in 2012. And he did say that holding the title wasn't the goal when he came back, but he hated the man that he became, and now he wants to take the title off John Cena. And John Cena basically says and calls CM Punk out to basically fight for the title at Night of Champions. So we're never going to get that title on the same day, that fight. So Night of Champions, which is quite ironic because he's telling CM Punk to go to Saudi Arabia, and Punk has said a lot of things about that as well. We then had Seth Rollins coming out and basically flexing the briefcase there. I thought that they were going to come to the ring and pull a promo, but it was great to kind of see that. And to me, that was a message to say that I guess Seth Rollins is going for this WWE Championship. I know that John Cena said that he wasn't, but for me, it feels as though that's the case. But we'll have to wait and see what happens with Seth Rollins. But again, this promo was basically to quickly set up the Night of Champions match between John Cena and CM Punk, which I'm excited for. But at Night of Champions, I don't know how I feel about it. Definitely John Cena's going to retain the title here. It almost feels like that's going to happen. So it's just frustrating because getting out the Randy Orton match and getting out the CM Punk match so quick, it just feels as though they have no real chance at winning the title. So it's just a filler match in the end of the day. Them two are having their feud, but it's not something overly significant, which is quite unfortunate, but who knows? It could be something that could happen in the not too distant future for it to be a real fighting chance for CM Punk to win. But again, it's forcing him to go to Saudi Arabia, and that's something that is quite interesting in all this as well. We then get to basically the R-Truth promo, but first, because this happened before, I'll go straight to Becky Lynch because of the way that it was ordered on Raw, coming out into the ring pretty much and just addressing what also happened post Money in the Bank. So essentially, Becky makes her entrance to the ring, basically said that, was bragging about all her accomplishments. She said that the title should be about opportunities, and the greatest opportunity was afforded to Lynch, and she won it. She said that she'd be celebrating with her hot husband and beautiful child if she was able to, but Lyra ruined everything. She said that Lyra raised Lynch's hand so aggressively that Lynch thought she dislocated her shoulder, which was quite silly. I feel like Lynch is embracing this kind of heel role, and I'm a big fan of it, to be honest, the way she just kind of makes you feel hateable, making so many excuses. But then she basically called out Lyra to apologize and raise her hand. Lyra came into the ring with an angry look, and as she was about to come in and attack Becky Lynch, Bayley showed up out of nowhere and started throwing forearms. Bayley punched her a few times. Lynch escaped, but realized that Lyra was behind her. Lyra threw her back onto the ring, and as Bayley was about to set up for Roast Plan, Becky Lynch just ran away. So I'm really liking Becky Lynch as heel role. I think it's something different to what we're used to, but it's great. It's a great heel role. It's someone that's obviously talks the big talk, but just cheats her way into victories, and he's just extremely arrogant as well, and it just kind of fits her mold perfectly. I'm not sure what's going to happen now that Bayley's involved. It's great to see her back, by the way, but it feels like we haven't got that filler match between Lyra Valkyria and Becky Lynch. We may see a triple threat between these three, but it's going to be interesting to see how Lyra and Bayley potentially feud in this, but I think it's setting up for an eventual SummerSlam clash between the two. But it's great to see Bayley show up, and hopefully she doesn't get screwed over this time. This is a pretty decent feud for her, and this whole feud alone has really raised the level of the Intercontinental Championship to the point where I've almost forgot what's the go with Io Sky. Like, there is nothing at the moment for Io Sky as it seems, and as it stands. Since she's won the belt at WrestleMania, I think she's only defended it once, or maintained the title at WrestleMania. I think she's only defended it once. And it just seems as though there's no kind of screenings for her at the moment, and there's no feud. So maybe after Queen of the Ring, they might set up a match with her, but I don't know. At this point, it's really weird that we're actually like covering so much of the Intercontinental Women's title, but nothing with the Women's World Heavyweight Championship. Maybe they'll be cleared up on the next episode of Raw, but that was just something that I kind of picked up as well. It's been really quiet on that end, on Io Sky's end. Then we get the R-Truth promo, and Truth chants were coming in. He basically said that all the fans brought him back, and but he's back for himself. He said not only did they bring the Truth back, but you got him. And all the fans said the Truth chants. He basically also mentioned that we all love R-Truth, but R-Truth can be too funny and too nice, and Ron is not like that. Ron said that he feels different, he feels alive, and for anyone who thinks he's some sideshow act or gimmick, they were wrong. Well, as he did that, he cut his scissors and dreadlocks, so he didn't mention anything. And the fans then chanted Holy SHIT, which is pretty crazy. He then picked up the hair and said that the Truth had set him free. So he's basically going back to his old character of Ron Killings, who is the Truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. So that's going to be extremely exciting to see. I'm sort of going to miss sort of the R-Truth character, to be honest, the funny and low gimmick one. And that's the character that we all made and fell in love with. But I think with this new gimmick, it gives him more kind of power into the ring, and that's something that I think TKO would have thought would be something that would be of value for his contract and whatnot. So obviously they made that lie that he was fired and it was all part of the show. I guess they weren't happy with R-Truth being a comedic act. So then R-Truth, due to the fans, everyone telling him to come back, he came back, but now he's going to be this character, Ron R-Truth Killings, which is more to that kind of serious side, and he'll be performing in-ring as well. I do hope there is a push for him. I'm really hoping as well that he would be part of the King of the Ring tournament. I know they're having a match with him next week on SmackDown, which is quite disappointing. I really expected them to, because I don't think it's for the title either. They haven't mentioned anything for the title. I don't think it's going to mount for anything, unfortunately, because John Cena is trying to throw these other matches involved with this. But it feels like R-Truth and John Cena has the most authentic feud at the moment, especially with R-Truth constantly beating him up. So just to have that match and take him away from there will be quite disappointing. But again, this is going to be a big push for him. Hopefully he wins a title. I'm really expecting him to be a world champion just before the end of his career. We'll have to wait and see if they do it. But this new character is something exciting and it hasn't been done for a while. So it's going to take a lot of time to get used to. But I'm definitely going to miss the funny R-Truth. And that was something that we all also fell in love with a lot. So yeah, it's a bit of a double-edged sword. As much as I want to see R-Truth be that comedic act, I do understand why this is the case and sort of WWE wanting to get the best value out of this as well. We then go on to SmackDown and we get a Wyatt 6 video. So they address this. It's basically mentioning that they're not here to be a nostalgic act. They are coming for the tag team championships and they are not going to be forgotten. Their role here and I think their goal is to basically question the brotherhood of these tag team divisions. So how that's going to work, not too sure. Spoiler alert, on SmackDown they do get their first victory against the Motor City Machine Guns. So they're sending a massive message already to the tag team division. But it's really hard for them to get out of the shadow of Bray Wyatt, to be totally honest. And I think WWE is struggling with that. But hopefully with this tag team division input, we might see this develop. But again, I do hope that Bo Dallas or all the Wyatt Six as a whole get involved in singles titles as well. Like, it's great to have a tag team division. It's great to take the belts off the tag team. But in the end of the day, your main leader of the faction group, for it to be successful, has to either have a significant feud with someone else or has to have the title around their waist. And at the moment, they're going for the tag team division. Unless he's going to be involved in winning the title, I don't see the value in it. If Dexter Lumis and Joey Gacy wins it, he might influence them. But ultimately, we want to see Uncle Howdy be the main driver in this. That's how Bray Wyatt was when he had the Wyatt family. I expect no less with the Wyatt Six as well. And there hasn't been any kind of more character depth into the rest of the characters either since those little videotape cutouts. So it'd be great for them to kind of get involved too. We'll have to see how this goes, because the first stint of it, when they first came back on Raw, didn't live up to the expectations. But they are getting a lot of pops. I know it's nostalgic, but they are getting a lot of good cheers from the crowd. So if they can figure out a way to work this out well, then it could be something that could be very significant. And I really like the Uncle Howdy character. I really do like Bo Dallas. He really much reminds me of Bray Wyatt, especially with the promos. So there's something to definitely work with here. We then get the second main event match between Dragon Lee and Austin Theory. For some reason, Dragon Lee getting the victory, which was a massive surprise for me, especially given that Austin Theory wasn't with Grayson Waller in ring as well. The only way I could sort of justify this is maybe for Grayson Waller to push the narrative that he needs him for Austin Theory to be good, or he also thinks that he's better than Austin Theory as well, and that just boosts Grayson Waller's ego. But there is no justification or other justification to give Dragon Lee a victory here, if I'm all honest. I think Austin Theory is starting to get heat from the crowd. The split up is near, and a victory here would have pushed that agenda a lot further than normal. So don't really understand why this was the case, but Dragon Lee will take the victory. But there's not really much for Dragon Lee to do, so it doesn't really make sense for me at the moment. It would have made much more sense if Austin Theory won and they started to push that agenda that he doesn't need Grayson Waller, he's better without him, and he gets a victory here that gives him that momentum too. It kind of defeats the purpose of them splitting up. Of course, they're going to, but the point was that Austin Theory can do better without Grayson Waller, and this match didn't prove that that was true because he lost and Grayson Waller wasn't there. So, quite confusing for me. Again, it is main event, so not really sure how many people are going to look into this, but it was something that I thought I'd, address. The other thing I want to quickly address is, has anyone heard from Ludwig Kaiser? I have not seen him in a few weeks, and I'm starting to get a bit worried. He could be the questionary guy for tomorrow. I know a lot of people are saying Ilya Dragunov, Jey Uso, potentially R-Truth, but I wouldn't be surprised if it's Ludwig Kaiser. And the one reason why I do say that is because he is part of Imperium, and while they're technically sort of not together, but they still are, so it could be him, and he could be there just to make a case and give Gunther a big run, but who knows? That's just a wild question mark take that I have. It will be extremely underwhelming if it is Kaiser, but it would be quite interesting as well. I do think it's going to be Jey Uso, which will frustrate me, but yeah, that's my predictions for who the next mystery opponent will be. The dark horse being Ludwig Kaiser, Jey Uso being the one that will actually get it, or potentially Ilya Dragunov. It's got to be one of those three. If it's anyone else, I'll be very surprised. If it's Joe Hendry, I'll be very happy too. I'm saying his name, so hopefully he does appear. Speaking of Gunther, we get the match between himself and Jey Uso for the World Heavyweight Championship. Now, I thought given that they hyped this match, Seth Rollins was going to come cash in and take the title off Jey Uso. So I did expect Jey Uso to get the title off him because I felt like everyone else as though he did get heat from the crowd, but his promos and his run was extremely underwhelming. So instead of Seth Rollins coming in, which I was wrong about, it ended up being Gunther getting his victory with a sleeper, and Jey Uso dropping the belt, which was also a big surprise. The match itself was really good. There was a lot of time for them to get into it. The main event doesn't really go into the whole match itself. It has them both just kind of clutching each other up with sleeper holds, and then Gunther ending up getting the victory, passing Jey Uso out there with the sleeper. So Gunther gets his title back, and as for Jey Uso, he loses his title, which wasn't a shock to me personally, because I feel like, yes, his run was a bit underwhelming, but it's crazy how they actually pulled the trigger and actually made Jey Uso drop the belt. It's probably the shortest run post-WrestleMania I've ever seen, so very interesting there. With Gunther, he is a fighting champion. He is worthy of being the champion at the moment, and it looks a lot better around him as well. I think he's been a great asset to the company, and he's such a typical, very good heel champion. So we'll see what happens with him. Maybe he versus Goldberg for the title. I don't want to see that, but it looks like Goldberg wants to have one more match, so that might be the next feud, or whatever happens with King of the Ring might be the factor there. So a lot to kind of cover. I do suspect that Cody Rhodes will probably win King of the Ring anyway, but a lot to uncover with Gunther. What happens with Jey Uso is extremely questionable at the moment. He might have to team up with Jay again and get the tag team division going back, and then being back to tag teams, because both of them are not really doing anything at the moment. But yeah, Gunther's the champion. A big surprise. I did expect to cash in, but I'm happy with the decision that WWE made, putting the belt back on Gunther. And I do feel for Jey Uso, but at the same time, there's only so much crowd hype can do to you if you're not able to pull promos, if you're not able to be a champion that is good enough, like, to really fight and battle and feel like they will win. It's very hard. I feel like this was just a celebratory moment for the fans to push someone that was favored. So Gunther's a champion now. It's a bit of a cover up, and I guess a retool. What's the word? I can't even remember. A pivot into what now could be something pretty significant. We'll have to see. But again, it's been Daniel, and you've been listening to the Main Event Review. Thank you very much for tuning into this one, and I will catch you guys next week for another main event review. Cheers.
Thanks for listening to the WWE Podcast. Don't forget to subscribe on your favorite podcast app so you don't miss a show, or head to WWEpodcast.com. And for all of these shows ad-free, head over to patreon.com/WWE Podcast. Until then, we'll see you next time.